please. Here.
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 Okay, is Gary on the ordinance subcommittee? Okay, all right. No, you can sit, no, sit. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't missing you. So, what we have here on the agenda is a discussion regarding, real property tax relief for certain elderly homeowners, and we have Attorney Paul Justle, Town Attorney, here to explain to us. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Ordinance Subcommittee. So the idea here is to adopt the state, essentially the same parameters as the state uses for determining tax exemptions. That would increase the income levels. It would also increase the number of income levels from 5 to 6. And it would increase the upper level of the tax exemptions, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, the state program also includes a credit minimum number, and it's based on the formula that they use, which we will have to incorporate by reference into our ordinance. And unfortunately, what happens is when you get to the credit minimum, there are certain people who, under our local ordinance, would currently get a tax credit. For example, at the top level, the credit minimum is $743. The states, if you're unmarried and at the lower end, it's only $350. So I think that was kind of overlooked a little bit in the consideration of this, and I think that the idea that the council wants to do to increase the tax credits is a great one. But if we're going to change those lower limits, those credit minimums, we need to take a look at what the impact would be. I mean, currently, based on just moving the state limits into our program, making that our program, we know that the cost to the town would be about $85,000. But I think what we need to do is send it back to have the cost determined based on increasing the minimum to at least what we're at now, if not a higher number, if that's what you want to do.
What are we at now?
We're at, for the lowest income people, the tax credit is $743. And it doesn't matter whether you're married or unmarried, it's $743. Under the state program, if you're married, the top limit is $1,250. If you're unmarried, it's $1,000. But the credit minimum, if you're married, is only $400. And if you're unmarried, is $350. So less than half of what our current tax credit would be at that income level.
So that would result in a detriment then for some people, is what you're saying?
Exactly.
We don't want to do that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So I think that we need to take, or perhaps it needs to get sent back to the Tax Exemption Committee for a little bit further review and a review again of the impact, because we need to know what the impact is on lost revenue as well. And everybody needs to have that information. So my recommendation would be talk about it at the council tonight, but I think that the idea is we want to increase the tax exemption for the seniors, not end up on some levels decreasing it.
So we would have a maximum, if a married couple, that would be, you said $1,250?
$1,250.
That's what we're thinking to implement?
Right, that's the state. The state program right
That's the state
now
program, right.
increases the income limit from our $18,100 a year to $20,200, and it makes the maximum tax credit for a married person $1,250 from our current $743. So it would be a $500 plus additional tax credit. What's that, Mayor?
Committee already went through all of that.
Unfortunately, I think they missed something, because what they missed is that under the state program, when you do the calculations, there is a minimum credit at that same income level that goes as low as $350, which is less than half of what the credit is under the current town tax credit.
So is this something that we here should be kind of moving to send to the council to send back to the committee, or it shouldn't come from us, right, as the ordinance subcommittee?
Well, I think we bring it to the council. It's on the council's agenda tonight. I think the council really needs to send this back to the committee.
Okay,
Because, let's face it, the idea is to try to increase the tax credits for seniors, right? The tax
Right.
exemptions. And unfortunately, I think there's an unintended consequence
right.
to just adopting the state program.
Okay, any
Through the-
questions, Denise? Go ahead.
If we keep it with the local, that's not as good as the state one? Or if we stayed with there's a local tax relief and the state tax relief?
Right.
Right. So with the local tax relief, is it less than what you're speaking about tonight if we don't take the state tax relief?
Well, what it does is for most people, it makes the tax credit much less.
With the local tax relief?
Correct.
Okay.
And Paul, just to clarify, because Denise raises a good question, actually, in my mind. First of all, local and state, there's not going to be two tax credits. It's just we're going to model ours after the state program. Is
Well,
that
there will
right?
still be two tax credits.
There will be a local and a state?
There will be a local and a state. The state
see.
exists, and we're required to give.
So we're
the-
going to match the states,
Well, that was the original charge.
except for the minimum amount.
So I think what needs to happen is that the minimum amount needs to be raised.
So basically, kind of like a double benefit for the our residents.
That's correct. I mean, again, I think the council was pretty clear that they want to increase the tax benefit for seniors. I think everybody here is interested in making sure that the seniors get an additional tax credit, or tax exemption.
And-
Again, the unintended consequence here is the way the state does theirs.
Why would, and my question is, why would we model it after why model it, I mean, I'm fine with it, I'm just curious why we would model ours after the state.
So here's what happens. Every year, the state increases the income limits. And again, what my charge was to redraft the ordinance so that all it would take would be a resolution of the town council to increase the income limits and to change that credit based on what the state did with theirs.
Every year,
Every year.
okay.
No? Okay.
Because the committee specifically said we didn't necessarily want to increase ours every year.
You have the opportunity to do it.
Right.
I'm sorry. It takes a vote, that's why I said it takes a vote of the town council.
Yeah.
Sorry, misunderstood. It could increase every year. But again, the town council would have to vote for it. But it would not have to go back through ordinance subcommittee and a change to the ordinance. It will be included in the ordinance.
And the increase is based on cost of living, or is
The
it an
state does it
arbitrary-
based on cost of living, yes.
Okay. Ken, are you all set? Yeah.
Well, I apologize, but if we bring this back to the committee, what exactly are we going to be raising or making a difference if we follow the state? Can we adjust what we want and still follow the state?
Sure, we can change our credit minimum to a higher number
Okay,
And then everything would change proportionately if you elected to do that in a subsequent year.
okay, it's still following the state tax relief, but we are gonna modify it for our Oakville, Watertown, if we decide to adopt that.
Correct.
Thank you.
So should the council, I mean, we have 5 minutes or so, should the council be sending this to you to revise, or how did you work that out? Are you drafting it?
Well, I'll ultimately draft the ordinance, but I think what has to happen first is there has to be a determination made of where we're going to go with the credit minimum, which should probably be the subcommittee.
Right,
And then we'll draft the ordinance to
okay.
include that.
Makes sense.
All set? All right. So I guess we're not taking any action here, right?
I would vote to send it back to the council for a referral back to the committee.
Okay. Does anyone want to make such a motion to refer it back to the council to review? Go ahead.
Sure. I'll make the motion that we move it back to the council for further review and also to the subcommittee.
Second.
Any discussion, no discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, none opposed? I think that's all.
No, Herm's got his hand raised.
As a sitting member of the ordinance subcommittee, I'm gonna have to abstain. I checked the past several days about our meeting tonight, the council meeting. There wasn't anything that made me aware there was an ordinance subcommittee meeting. I'm gonna have to abstain.
Okay.
In fact,
Okay,
when
so-
did that go out, that we're having an ordinance subcommittee meeting?
It went out on Friday.
Well, I did
I
check.
sent it out Friday afternoon in the packet.
All right. Well, so noted, and I guess that's all. Attorney Jessel, thank you, and we'll adjourn.
Recording stopped.